हरे कृष्ण। मम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So we'll take association of Prabhupada for some time. We'll see what Prabhupada is trying to share with us in these wonderful chapters, where Lord Kapila is giving here, especially we discuss that according to Ishopanishad, if you know the process how we are getting entangled, it will help us to free ourselves from entanglement. That is the main thing. So we'll try to discuss on this. The personality of God, it said, a person who lives in the center of household life derives material benefits by performing religious rituals, and thereby he fulfills his desires for economic development and sense gratification. Again and again, he acts the same way. So here he is a very religious person and he is properly doing it. So he is called Grahamedi. He is working very hard, but in a religious way. He's not, he's doing sacrificial ceremonies, he's giving charities, he's doing good work. You see, all these things are very good activities. He's not just very outright gross materialistic person. And that we need to understand. And then he says that such persons are even bereft of devotional service due to being too attached to sense gratification, and therefore, although they perform various kinds of sacrifices and take great vows to satisfy the demigods and forefathers, they are not interested in Krishna conscious devotional service. So, what happens is when we see such people, we will be impressed. Very nice people. But we should also know when we get to devotional service, when we reach to a Madhyamadikari level, then it becomes very easy for us to distinguish between this difference between a devotee and a person who is very, very pious. He's giving charity, he's doing sacrifices, he's helping the poor, he's doing so many philanthropic activities. We really appreciate. I know here we see a devotee sitting in the Govinda's restaurant and ordering pizzas and he's eating nice food. He's not at all interested in doing any philanthropic activities. And then what we do is we should also know that there is a growth in the consciousness, and that person is more elevated in terms of Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya levels. But what is the speciality of a devotee? He has one speciality, that he developed a faith on the process of Krishna consciousness. Even though he may not be very elevated in the consciousness and the qualities, but eventually he will come to the highest level of consciousness because his faith has started. He is that person who is very, very charitable and all, they will go to heavenly planets. They may even go to Brahma Loka also, but they cannot go out of this material world. That is the main difference. But a devotee, even though he may be doing, apparently it looks like he's doing sense gratification, but eventually what happened is his switch to the fan is off. The fan is rotating, but eventually it stops. Even though we may see a devotee doing all sorts of material activities and outright sense gratification, but we should know what happened inside is the taste for these things is gone. He is doing out of habit, but he don't have any taste anymore because he already got taste for Krishna. Eventually it will go away very fast. That is the important thing. Otherwise, these people, they may be looking very pious, very good, and they go out of the way, completely giving up everything of them and doing sacrifices. But they're attached to it is a subtle sense of gratification, and they get Nobel Prize also. And really, they are very hardworking. They work very hard, tirelessly, and out of all odds, they work very hard. But it's they will go to Brahmaloka. That's all. They cannot go out of this world. Such materialistic persons attached to sense gratification and see here devoted to the forefathers and demigods can be elevated to moon, where they drink an extract of the soma plant. They again return to this planet. So this is actually what happens to them. And now further continues, all planets of the materialistic, all the planets of the materialistic persons, including all the heavenly planets such as the moon, are vanquished when the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari goes to his bed of serpents, which is known as Anantasesh. So basically, it is telling, why are you bothered about all these temporary things? Those who are intelligence and are of purified consciousness are completely satisfied in Krishna consciousness, freed from the modes of matter nature. They do not act for sense gratification, rather, since they are situated in their own occupational duties, they act as one is expected to act. And they are purified, intelligent, and are purified in consciousness. This is actually what we are trying to achieve. And then today we'll see the, here he continues further. Nivritti dharma netara nirmanam nirahankritah swadharmapetana satvena parishuddhena chetasa. By executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment and without a sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness, and by thus executing so called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God. This is actually what we are all aspiring for. So he told this is what is a Grahamedi, and now he is telling what is a Grihastha. He is executing one's occupational duties, acting with a detachment. Bhogadityaga Krishnasya hetave. Acting with detachment and without sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness. And by executing so called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God. The dint of complete purification of consciousness. This is actually what we are aspiring for. And this is possible when we act with a detachment. This is one part. This is little easier compared to this one. Without a sense of proprietorship or false egoism. This is more difficult. Detachment is easy compared to that. Here, the word Nivritti Dharma Nitara means constantly engaged in executing religious activities for detachment. There are two kinds of religious performances. One is called Pravritti Dharma, which means the religious activities performed by Grahamedis for elevating to higher planets or for economic prosperity. It is also Dharma only, you know? Pravritti Dharma only. They are not doing adharma activities. The final aim of which is sense gratification. Every one of us who have come to this material world has a sense of overlordship. This is called pravritti. But the opposite type of religious performance, which is called nivritti, is to act for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, engage in Krishna service in Krishna consciousness. One has no proprietorship claim, nor is one situated in the false egoism of thinking that he is God or the master. He always thinks himself the servant. That is the process of purifying consciousness. With pure consciousness only can one enter into the kingdom of God. Very difficult is to give up this proprietorship. Very, very difficult. This is what is causing the pain also. And we think that pain has pleasure, unfortunately. I am controlling so much of property. I am the owner of this many houses, this much land, this many vehicles, and this many shares in the companies. And people are very proud and they feel that's an achievement. But actually, that is not an achievement. It is just a bondage. And more we are able to free ourselves from this bondage, more it is actually good. At the end of life, we should have nothing. At least in the mind, it should not be there. In paper, something will be there on our name, but it should not be there. It's not actually good for our chanting. Because why Goswamis have to give up all their property? We say, okay, they are not attached. Na? Tektva Turna Masesha Mandalapatim. They are Mandalapatims. Why did they go to Vrindavan and stay? They could have brought some property with them, made some nice cottages and stayed in Vrindavan. Because it is very, very detrimental for our practice of Krishna consciousness. Anything, actually, it's a subtle knots that are holding. Vidyate Hridaya Grandhis. The Hridaya Grandhi is all these Hridaya Grandhis. They are all the knots. My family, my house, my laptop, my table, my chair, all are Hridaya Grandhis. So dangerous, so subtle, and uh, and unfortunately, we want to increase it. We have to know, no, I cannot increase it. After some time we have to make it, once we cross 40s and 50s, we should be very, very cautious. It is only causing bondage. We should not take chance. We have done it many, many lifetimes. And why same and again these instructions will come. It contaminates the consciousness, but ultimately to enter into consciousness with a purified consciousness, pure consciousness, only one can enter. And contamination in consciousness means the identification which we make in this material world. More and more we identify with whatever achievements, property, and all. That means that is a contamination in our consciousness. Nothing belongs to us. People will say, but they don't mean it. Everybody will say, even outside Middle East, हमारा क्या है, सब कुछ भगवान का है. They don't mean it. They don't understand what it means. It is consciousness is contamination. सूर्यद्वारेण ते यान्ति पुरुषं विश्वतो मुखं परावरेशं प्रकृतिम् अश्योतप्य अन्तभावयन्. Through the path of illumination, such liberated persons approach the complete personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of the material and spiritual worlds and is the supreme cause of the material worlds manifested and dissolution. Now the glorification of Lord is given. The word Surya Dharani, Dhavarani means the illuminated path or the path the sun through the sun planet. And Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. So the Vedas, they give this direction that how we need to progress in the path of light. It is very, very painful path. It's an endeavor path. And very clearly explained that Purusham Vishwato Mukham means the Supreme Personality of God who is all perfect. Everyone is infinitesimal, and therefore in the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is called Supreme Eternal among all eternals. And then Dvai Para Daswanina Yaha Pralayo Brahmanastu Te Tavad Dhasyate Lokam Parasya Para Chittaksha. Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, expansion of the personality of Godhead, remain within this material world until the end of two Pararthas, when Lord Brahma also dies. So this is, they remain within this material world. This is not a very good proposition. One dissolution is at the end of Brahma's day, and the one at the end of Brahma's life. Brahma dies at the end of two Pararthas, at which time the entire material universe is dissolved. Persons who are worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, the plenary expansion of personality Godhead, Garbhodak Sai Vishnu, do not directly oppose the Supreme Personality of God in Vaikuntha. They remain within this material world on Satyaloka, or either higher planets until the end of life of Brahma. These are the people who really want to enjoy in this material world. So they are getting nice opportunity to enjoy. We should not aspire for it. Why? Because that enjoyment is restricted. It is not a highest enjoyment. Highest enjoyment is for the soul, and that is with love. And these enjoyments are with senses and mind. This is a very, very high level of enjoyment. and Vedas promise. If we want to enjoy our senses in a very subtle way, there are nice opportunities are there. And even beyond Brahmaloka also there are enjoyments in this material world. When you cross this universal layers, they give such a amount of pleasure. And like if a person goes to the first outer covering is of made of earth. Earth means not this earth which we are seeing. It's a much subtler thing than even what we are experiencing. Very subtle. And there Varahadev with Lakshmi Devi stays. It is a covering. But they are also living entities. They get the highest pleasure in the smell. The senses, if we want to experience the pleasure in like some nice perfumes, gives so much pleasure to the nose. But if somebody want to enjoy the pleasure in smelling, that is the best place in the creation. And next with taste, we are so much want to enjoy the taste, eating different items. But if you really want, there is a place, the coverings after Brahmaloka. That means point is that these are very very subtle amount of pleasures which we experience in this material world. But it is all material only because it is with the senses, even though it is very subtle. Even heavenly planets, amazing pleasures. But it is not going to satisfy the heart because heart needs love. That is possible only in spiritual world, no love in material world. Senses will be satisfied in heavenly planets. Mind is also very much satisfied because you get so many types of varieties of pleasures. You can see beautiful things here and all. But what we don't get is pleasure in the heart is not satisfied. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yito bhakti radokshit ahaituki apratita ye atma suprasiddha. Atma suprasiddha is not possible. That's the reason demigods are very insecure so many times. They are fighting among themselves, they fight with the demons and so many things that happen because heart is not satisfied. If that is satisfied, then people don't fight. Fighting is because of heart is not satisfied. Why Indra is doing so many mistakes is because heart is not satisfied. If a person's heart is satisfied, then like Goswamis, their heart is satisfied. They don't want any material things. They just left everything. Love means you don't need any material. You don't feel sleep also if love is there. If person is in love, he sleeps very less. That's why Goswamis they are sleeping 2 hours. Proper sleep, Haristori process. 1.5 years he was secretary, servant for Prabhupada. In the last part of his life, he was only sleeping 1.5 hour. 1 hour he used to sleep in daytime and nighttime they hardly used to sleep because he wanted to complete his books. So that is actually what is, yeah. So there is a question in chat box that insecurity is a byproduct of sense gratification. Yes, very much. More we enjoy, more we become insecure because we aspire for it more. So love means you don't sleep also much. Goswamis hardly they were sleeping. They don't need it. And Prabhupada also not sleeping much. He didn't sleep much for many years because this love for Krishna and compassion for the living entities. And same thing, material items you don't need. Prabhupada was having, when he became Acharya, he was having so many material facilities. But he was going and staying in Mayapur in the hut. And he has to go early in the morning to clear his stomach into the fields. He used to take a bunk, go into the fields. I don't know, we thinking, oh, I need a flush toilet and running water and all these things. Could live very simple in a hut. That means what? The material facilities didn't bother him much. There is love means you don't need it. Heart is satisfied. Heart is satisfied. We are very fortunate. We are getting access to satisfy our heart very, very easily. In terms of we are getting such wonderful association of acharyas, which is going to satisfy the heart so fast. We will not be aspiring for all these material needs, which is not even available to demigods. They don't, they have the method to satisfy the heart, but not as much as we have. That's why they aspire to come to Bharatavarsha, especially in this age, because they can get access for all these acharyas and such nice association. Their heart is satisfied, then they don't need any of this material or heavenly pleasures also they will not be needing. And like if any of the acharyas are given the opportunity to go to heaven, they will not accept only. They say no need. Even they were living only, they were having the pleasure of heavenly pleasures. They didn't aspire for it. They didn't even enjoy. No, we see Raghunath Das Goswami, how much wealth he was having. All the Goswamis are like that. So they didn't. The heart decides. That is actually what is important for us. We need to know that we don't need much if there is love. No love, then we need so much. And no matter how much we give, it still remains less only. He says, after experiencing the inhabitable time of the three modes of matter nature, known as two pararthas, Lord Brahma closes the material universe, which is covered by layers of earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, ego, etc., and goes back to Godhead. So these are the coverings where living entity enjoy. Abhyakrita. The sky, spiritual sky is called Abhyakrita, which does not change. And there the Supreme Personality of God resides. And after ruling over the material universe under the influence of time element, Lord Brahma desires to dissolve it and enter into the kingdom of God, other than enter others then enter with him like that. Okay, so there is a question. Mataji want to I Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj session one. I made notes for it. I will share in the group. If you are there in Bhakti Vigyan, His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj online classes sessions, I'll share the notes in it. It's there. And still, if you feel after the notes also you need some explanation, then I will definitely do. It's actually very nice. The notes I am making is also very simple. You will be able to immediately understand what Mara is trying to say. I am making it headings and subheadings, so it's quite easy if you go through the notes. But still, after that also, if you want, I'll share. I also like that session very much. I just almost completing the notes. Then I will share the notes. The yogis who become detached from material world by practice of breathing exercise and control of the mind reach the planet of Brahman, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma, and therefore, when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Supreme, such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of. So they are in the Krama Mukti process. You all remember in the second canto we discussed Krama Mukti. So they are in the Krama Mukti, so they gradually go. These people are quite interesting people. They want to enjoy the both material world and spiritual world, but they are not intelligent like the people who directly go to spiritual world. They are wasting their time in this material world because heart is satisfied, then you don't need to satisfy anything in the material world, because we are not the body only, because we identify we are satisfying something which we are not. It is not. See, what happens is the soul projects the consciousness on matter with the help of prana. This prana is a connecting element between the soul and the matter. What we are doing, we are enjoying the matter, the mind, senses, and all these things. They are subtle matter and gross matter, but the prana is the connecting element. So, because of the prana connecting this, there is the consciousness that enters here with the matter. That's why we are able to enjoy. Otherwise, not possible. Now, what happens is, like say, we the we lit the we put a light. The whole room is bright, right? So similarly, the whole senses they become conscious because of the soul only, and soul with the help of connection. Now, what happens is that the soul on its own is not enjoying separately. It is just enjoying the matter only. But when it goes to spiritual world, then the soul don't need all this prana and all this. It is enjoying in a higher level. This enjoyment is lower because soul is projecting something as enjoyment. Like I'm watching a movie. Sometimes you watch a very good movie, sometimes too good movie. So it is ultimately movie only. Like you may be watching some cartoon show for children. There, some rhymes and some things are taught. You may feel bored. Some documentary comes, an animal planet and Discovery Channel, some animals, that is. And then you get some some movie or something. You get more excited. But in all the three levels, it is a illusion only because you are not doing anything. It's a movie that is happening here. Similarly, higher planets or lower planets, it's not the soul who is enjoying. It is the mind and senses only enjoying. Much, much subtler way. That's all. But in the spiritual world, directly soul experiences pleasure because of love and direct contact with Krishna. Nothing to do with material. Here it's only reflection enjoyment. That's the main difference. So here Prabhupada is telling that by perfecting their yogic practice, yogis can reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, and after giving up their material bodies, they can enter into the body of Lord Brahma because they are not directly devotees of the Lord. They cannot get liberation directly. They have to wait until Brahma is liberated, and only then, along with Brahma, are also liberated. It is clear that as long as a living entity is a worshipper of a particular demigod, his consciousness is absorbed in the thoughts of the demigods, and therefore he cannot get direct liberation or entrance into the kingdom of God, nor can he merge into the impersonal effulgences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such yogis or demigod worshippers are subjected to the chance of taking birth again when there is again creation. So they just continue here. It's all with matter only. Anything and what happens in Brahmaloka and all, their identification with the matter is quite, their ego is quite less. That is also makes them more free and enjoy also. They enjoy, but they can freely enjoy compared to what we are enjoying. We are actually more bound and forced. Like we all have to work, we all have to cook our food. If you are not cooking, then you are earning for the food. If you are not doing both, that means you are a brahmachari or you are a small child in the home. Otherwise, there is a hard work. Uh, you are staying in ashram, then you don't have earning problem or cooking. Of course, we do cooking for the deities and all. That is different, but in general, this is how this metal world is designed. If you want to enjoy, you have to work hard. If you don't want to enjoy, come to ashram. You welcome and do service in the temple and have prasadam freely. But that is not possible for all because the identification is very strong. We have to proper time. Everybody was staying in temple. There is nobody who is staying outside. Grihasthas, brahmacharis, everybody in temple only. And no earning, just work for Krishna and maintain yourself. And this was there till maybe 500-600 years back in India, where some ashrams, mutts were there. Their full-time devotees were there, and they are not having so much financial crisis and all because life was quite simple. Now we made it very complicated. Our medical expenses are very complicated. There it was not like that previously. It was quite simple life. And they had some land and everybody take care of the land and there is no shortage of food because there are no hotel zone in India. Anywhere, any temples you go, every day there was free food distribution. No need of uh, any separate earning. If you don't have, just go to temple, take your lunch and come. Such facilities were there. People were very simple. The dressings were very simple. But now we have made it more complicated, and people have to work to eat junk food. This is actually what America's gift for all the world. And everybody go and they try to settle in America and make it more and more what do you say? I don't know, advanced or whatever happens. So what happens is that we are losing, like, no, they just have to eat junk food. They have to eat food which they don't cook every day. They purchase from outside and eat, which is not healthy only in terms of consciousness, in terms of body. And consciousness is very, very low because they are becoming like machines only. Their consciousness is very low. But if you cook yourself, eat, offer to the Lord and take that, it's very good in consciousness and very safe also. And person, they were whatever area there, they used to take vegetables and fruits and grains of that area only. Now what is happening? I get oranges from South Africa, I get pomegranates from Afghanistan, and one month they are frozen and then they are transported, and you take them, which is not needed actually because my body is according to this climatic condition. I just have to eat the food which is available here, and I can remain healthy. In terms of mental health, also it is good. And now we want everything which is happening all over world, and then you get it damages everything. There's a question in chat box. Can you elaborate how the mind and senses are enjoying and not the soul in the movie example? Does the soul also not attempt to enjoy through the mind and senses using them as the tool? Soul is enjoying in terms of identification and enjoyment. Your soul is not doing on its own, it is identifying and enjoying. That, see, we are watching a movie and we enjoy the movie when we are watching. Am I really doing anything in that? No, my enjoyment is hero is enjoying there, but I am getting pleasure. If hero is beating somebody or hero is getting success or hero is able to impress somebody, why am I feeling pleasure? Because as soon as I start seeing the movie, I start identifying myself with the hero. I said, this is a nice person, he should win. And when he wins, I feel pleasure. So this is actually where the pleasure is coming. Because I identified with the hero. That's why pleasure is coming. If I don't identify, then I don't get pleasure in that movie. I have to make a connection with it. The object, we connect with the object or the person, then we start pleasure. That is actually what is happening. The mind and senses are a tool that is given to us, and the soul is using them, identifying with them, and taking pleasure. I think, okay, I'm a smart boy and I'm a rich boy or whatever. I have to identify. If you don't identify, where is the question of pleasure? That is the point. They no, you are given a car, and then when I identify, oh, my car is the best in my society, immediately there is some sort of pleasure. If I don't identify, you are sitting in the car and going, you may not get so much pleasure. You say, okay, car. But more we identify. That's actually what happens. Initially, some new car will give pleasure for few days, and after that, there is no more pleasure because the identity reduces. The and that is the main problem. So another thing is, how about impersonal liberation? Is soul participating to a greater extent? Impersonal liberation, you don't identify anything, you identify yourself as soul, that gives pleasure. In impersonal liberation, we identify, means I know I am the soul. That itself is so much pleasure. That means that is much more greater pleasure to be with oneself than to identify with something else. In the spiritual world, what we do, we start identifying ourselves as servant of Krishna. That is much more higher. One is identifying with matter, one is identifying with oneself, another is identifying as a servant of Krishna, which is actually our connection. The hand is part of the body. It is very happy if it is with the body. We are part of Krishna. being as a servant of Krishna is the best thing for the soul, not to be in a neutral state. Neutral state itself, soul on itself is Satchidananda. So with its own, it can be happy also. That's what is liberation. But when we connect it to Krishna, it is like ultimate. And when it is in the matter, it is like a degraded state. So it's the soul's where it is identified. Because we have to take shelter of something, we are taking wrong shelter. Okay. Any other questions, comments? We'll end here. Thank you all very much. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद।